promoted largely for what they label black or African American. At that time, they wasn't using African American. They were using black, Negro, colored, and things like that. The only specific group that it talked about was American Indian. That's it. So all of these acts that the 1968 Civil Rights Act that they claimed was for your rights or for black people's rights, it wasn't that at all. Now, that had some general things in there that, okay, you can't discriminate on race, color, and things like that. But the only specific group they ever talked about, and I'll give you the timeline here. Here's the Civil Rights Act of 1957. It was a voting rights enforcement, creation of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, and protected categories was race and color. And then let me clear something up. This whole idea of color is nonsense. It's something socially engineered in this country to create social classism, economic division, and to be able to label certain groups of people good or bad. So these are all constructs of this current country's system. You go anywhere in the world, this is not a thing, as it is in this country. Specific ethnic or racial groups named, there was no specific ethnic groups named in the 1957 Civil Rights Act. It just uses general classifications. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1960 just was talking more about strengthening voting protections, federal inspection of voter registration, things like that. No specific ethnic groups were mentioned there. 1964, purpose was for landmark civil rights law, public accommodations, employment, education, federally assisted programs. Protected categories used across titles was race, color, religion, sex, national origin. But no specific ethnic group was mentioned in that one as well. And then in 1968, Public Law 9284, this act has two separate civil rights components, and this is where precision matters. Title 7, Fair Housing, codified at 42 U.S.C. 3601 to 3619. These are all the protected categories, same as the other ones. The explicit statutory language was 42 U.S.C. Section 3607 B1, nor does this subchapter apply to land held by an Indian tribe. So specific ethnic group expressly mentioned was Indians, Indian tribes. So if you go down to Title 2, Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968, codified as 25 U.S.C. Section 1301 to 1303, explicit definitions, 25 U.S.C. 1302-2, Indian tribe means any tribe, band, or other group of Indians subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Specific ethnic group expressly mentioned Indians. This title applies civil rights protections with Indian tribal governments, confirms Congress viewed Indians as a distinct people with political and legal status. Civil Rights Act of 1991, purpose, amended employment discrimination law, expanded remedies and jury trial rights, protected categories used, same as the other ones. So this was the 1991. So the only Civil Rights Act that specifically named the group was in 1968, and that was the time of Martin Luther King, and this was passed after he was assassinated. So what does that say? What is this? I'm not gonna explain it just now, but I want you guys. What do you think that they're trying to say here? Somebody trying to get in? Anybody, whoever wants to speak up. Don't be afraid to give a wrong answer or think your answer is wrong.
Peace, peace.
Go ahead, Glenda.
I think what was happening at that time, they were acknowledging the fact that we were the indigenous people of this land, And we did not have the knowledge to understand that we were, because we thought the Indians were a red race of people, not us.
Mm-hmm. So they came up with a lot of treaties for the Indians or the American Indians, right? And most of them was never kept. They all went back on these ingredients. Somebody's in the way to hang on. There we go. So now we get the Civil Rights Act of 1968.